hasta este raro sitio sin casas ni paisaje, este lugar desnudo de las piedras al alma donde el mundo germina. Quizás también tú llegas siguiendo ese camino en esta vida harta de aciertos y certezas. Une. La poesía es el reino de los equivocados.
Entrance. I don't know by which path, but I've arrived here to this strange spot with no houses or scenery, this naked place from stones to soul where the world takes root. Perhaps you arrive too, following the path, in this life sated with success and certainty. Only error joins us. Poetry is the realm of the mistaken. This is from In Verse, which is on sale right here, so run if you haven't gotten it after the reading.
Well, you can go right now if you want to.
Before we begin, before we continue with our reading, I just would like to read a little bit from my translator note from this latest collection that came out with Shearsman late last year, just to give you an idea of the poetry that we're going to be reading today. This most of this poetry belongs to a later cycle in Victor's work, and well, I'm just going to read. So this book is called Rebel Matter, so I'll be making reference to it. Rebel matter is hermetic, elliptical, but most of all, dialogic. Reader and poet share the task of meaning creation. It is a departure from an earlier poetics, a moving away from poem as composition, as topic bound. It rejects the label of irrationalism. It is alternative reason, a radical change in discourse, an exercise in freedom. No structure, no limits. And so we ask, as we read these poems today, that you also, as listeners, help to create the meaning of these poems.
Being a Cuban and living in Ohio, in the United States, give me a really different kind of perception of nature. When I was in Cuba, nature for me was transparent. I didn't see the nature, but being in a place like it's almost the opposite of the tropical nature, I become very aware about nature. And I will read the last stanza of a very long poem. El aire se desploma, a sí mismo se dicta. Hasta la hormiga sabe que rima con fatiga. En la espalda del fuego, ¿quién escribe? El azar es mi acierto, como el pato de cabeza en el agua. La sed es la corriente, el hambre la adherencia. El pato indaga en la dura fluidez y su plumaje umbrío hace brillar todo el ser congelado. La forma es ideológica. Con la contemplación el mundo cambia.
The air collapses into itself, pronounces itself. Even the ant knows it rhymes with scant. On fire's back, who is writing? Fate is my good move like the duck, head first in the water, thirst in current, hunger, stickiness. The duck searches in the hard fluidity, and its shady plumage makes all the frozen being glow. Form is ideological. With contemplation, the world transforms.
De cielos. Hay un círculo de tierra caliente donde reina la hierba. No se atreve la escarcha, la nieve dura menos que el amor. En el mismo corazón del invierno esta úlcera verde. Todos pasan de largo, obsesionados con su intrascendencia. Yo no voy ni regreso. Me paro allí, reverbero el vacío.
Thaw 1. There is a circle of hot earth where grass holds sway, frost would not dare, snow lasts less than love. In the dead of winter, this green sore, everyone goes right past, obsessed with their insignificance. I do not come or go, I stand there, I echo the void.
Te abandona la luz entre los girasoles que se encienden. Las banderas empercuden la brisa, el estar se coagula. Del estanque se levantan los gansos y vuelan en escuadra. A su imagen, todo sigue los rastros del sol, salvo la mariposa que inesperadamente se posa en una sílaba.
Light forsakes you. Among fiery sunflowers, flags soil the gentle wind, being clots. From the pond, geese rise, flying in squadron. In their image, everything follows the traces of sun, save the butterfly, all at once landing on a syllable.
Cuando la lluvia envidia se hace nieve y se tiende sobre el bosque desnudo que la recibe gris enmarañado como todo principio, toda fe. El bosque se embellece pues la envidia no se va por las ramas, arde como la brea. El único final es el placer.
When rain envies, it turns to snow and spreads over the naked forest who welcomes it, ashen, entangled. Like every principle, every faith, the forest grows more beautiful since envy doesn't beat around the bush. It burns like pitch. The only end is pleasure.
Dos pájaros en uno posados en la orilla. El real pica la noche que fluye inconsolable en la nevada. Su sed es negativa, lo comprende la luz, nos abandona. El reflejo no imita porque se bebe un pájaro. Las dos alas permiten con el tiempo ser uno en este sauce.
Two birds in one, perched on the bank. The real one pecks at the night, flowing inconsolably in snowfall. Its thirst is negative. Light understands, abandons us. Reflection doesn't mimic because it drinks a bird. With time, two wings, let them be one in the willow.
Well, not everything is winter, you know, fortunately. And I will want to read something with some kind of Cuban flavor too. Intemperies. La lluvia con alma de alcantarilla. El camión ambarino que pasa echando espuma. Agua venida a menos que se emposa frente a la barbería. El ciclista sin rumbo que solo se cubre con un bolero. Aunque el trueno la nombre, la manzana no respeta la lluvia. Nada espera que escampe y todo sigue su muy seco curso. Debe hacer calor en este poema como cuando ha llovido en campanario y del asfalto brota un arco iris, pétalos herrumbrosos, espejos donde nadie se ha mirado y el sol comienza a recoger las sílabas, los añicos de nube, las heridas radiantes, la convulsa ilusión. Esparce sus semillas el reloj, germinan en la brisa que solo han removido tus caderas. la palma sobre el muro, el cantero de tilo, todo va a florecer si la lluvia cumple sus amenazas. Vuelve a cruzar el camión amarillo, tolvanera de música. Hace un sol sin pulir sobre el banco de la carpintería. Relumbra el policía vigilado desde la cuartería que se apresta al bembé. Mas la lluvia cumple sus amenazas. Cuando dice a llover, la selva de recebo arroja sus mamíferos. Una capa morada puede ser un signo de distinción, una letra en cursivas. Menores y mayores se pelean el chorro de una canal en uso, por milagro, sin dudas. Alguien sobre un cartón hace surf en las olas de la calle San Lázaro. Es el único instante en que sabemos que resistirán las ruinas del futuro.
Inclemencies. Rain has the soul of a sewer. The amber truck passes by, spewing foam. Water fallen on hard times stagnates in front of the barber shop. Wandering cyclist wrapped only in a bolero. Though thunder names it, the apple doesn't heed the rain. Nothing waits for it to stop, and everything follows its dry course. It must be hot in this poem. Like when it's rained on Campanario Street, and a rainbow springs up from the asphalt. Rusty petals, mirrors that never reflected a glance, and the sun begins to gather syllables. Bits of cloud, radiant wounds, shaky illusion, the clock scatters its kernels. They sprout in the breeze, stirred up only by your hips. Palm tree above the wall, bed of linden, everything will bloom if the rain carries out its threats. The yellow truck passes by again. Music's dust storm, an unpolished sun beats down on the carpenter's bench. The policeman glows, eyed from the tenement, preparing for the bembe. Yet the rain carries out its threat. When it rains, it pours. The adobe jungle throws off its mammals. A purple raincoat might be a sign of distinction, a cursive letter. Young and old fight over the stream of a working gutter, miraculously, no doubt. On a piece of cardboard, someone surfs the waves of San Lázaro Street. It is the only moment when we know they will resist the future's ruins.
Well, thank you so much for being here in the time that is supposedly is the best time to take a nap. And the napping time, you know, Heman, thank you so much for this beautiful edition. It's an honor to be part of the Poetry Walla family. And thank you all, you know. And I want to finish my reading with a poem that I always finish my reading with that poem. And I didn't get along well with my older son, Eduardo, for a while. He's a scientist. He's a physicist. And I study some subject in physics in order to write a poem, to try to, you know, make a bridge and a connection with him. And I did a lot of research, and I wrote this poem. And I showed him, and when I showed him the poem, he read the poem. Oh, that's okay, but you have to study more, because that's what you say is not up to date, you know. And you have to do a more in-deep research. The poem was dedicated to him, but I changed the dedication and I dedicate the poem and a friend of mine, a Chilean poet who loved the poem. But one time I was reading in Princeton, and when I tell this story and I read the poem, there was an old, very old, fragile man that approached to me and told me, "Can I give you a hug?" I said, "Yes." And he gave me a hug, and he told me, "You know, tell your son that he is absolutely wrong, that everything that you say about the neutrino in this poem is right. And the guy who told you that is the guy who received the Nobel Prize for discovering the neutrino. And, well, my son asked me, please, that don't tell anybody more this story, okay? Elogio del neutrino. Te celebro porque en el mundo nadie es más pequeño que tú y sin embargo atraviesas galaxias, nebulosas, estrellas sin reaccionar con nadie. Porque aún siendo luz, puedes moverte muchísimo más lento que la luz o descansar inmóvil, corrigiendo la teoría de un universo caliente. Porque gracias a ti el pasado fue solo plasma recalentado y no cenizas. La densidad del plasma era de billones de toneladas por centímetro cúbico. Porque nadie sabía hasta ahora que eras el 97% de todo, quedando solo un 3% a repartir entre hijos de puta y demases. Porque gracias a ti, nadie se aleja ya de nadie y todo tiende a unirse, y no importa que sea en una llama dura, en un punto radiante. Te celebro porque eres la esencia del espasmo, materia de ternura, o ese poco de nada con que mi tía dora sus natillas. Gracias a Dios, no es infinito el mundo. Como el verso está hecho de sílabas que es posible contar, el mundo cabe en un alejandrino.
Praise for the neutrino. I celebrate you because no one in the world is smaller, and still you cross galaxies, nebulas, stars, not reacting. Because even as light, you move much slower than light, or rest motionless, correcting the theory of a warming universe. Because thanks to you, the past was only reheated plasma and not ashes. Plasma's density reached billions of tons by cubic centimeter. Because no one knew until now. You were 97% of everything, leaving only 3 to be divided up among sons of bitches and the rest. Because thanks to you, no one's far from anyone now, and everything tends to join. And it doesn't matter if in a solid flame, at a radiant point. I celebrate you because you are essence of spasm, matter of tenderness, or that tiny bit of nothing my aunt uses to brown her custards. Thank God the world is not infinite. Like a verse, it's made up of syllables that can be counted. The world fits in Alexandrin.
Thank you so much, Kate, for those translations that are better than the original.
Thank you so much for that wonderful reading. It feels like such a privilege to hear poetry inhabiting other languages. And continuing on that journey, we're going to go to the next poet who will be reading us a poem in their native language. May I please call upon stage Dulce Chiang. Dulce Chiang is a poet, performing artist, and cultural manager. She has a degree in literary creation and has published 4 books of poems, as well as poetry in numerous international anthologies. Editor of El Golem in Digital Literary Magazine, director of the International Festival of Women's Poetry, and director of the Center of Literary Creation. Xavier, thank you, of the National Literature Coordination of the National Institute of Fine Arts and Literature of Mexico. Please welcome on stage Dulce.
Thank you. I'm here, so I hope I'm gonna do something. Can I? You see me now? A little better. Okay. So I'm going to share poetry in English, and I will close. I can move there. Yeah. Okay. It's better.